Hey everyone, and welcome back. I'm going to start looking over some hands from later on in the 50K PPC, and I had a couple of opportunities to be at the feature table. So instead of me retelling you the hand, we're going to go ahead and look over the hand for the next several videos here together. And I am starting off with a very kind of common tournament spot in Razz, where we first just got moved to the feature table. And just let me give you the lay of the land of the tournament scenario here. As you can see in the video here, there are 20 players left in the field. This tournament paid 17, so as you can imagine, we were all starting to feel that money bubble looming, and it is a big min cash in the 50K, over a 2x, so I believe 100K for the min cash. So certainly that was on the top of my mind at the feature table along with everyone else. You can see by my chip position here in the chip counts, however, that I'm doing fairly well. We're playing 40,000, 80,000. I've got 20 bets. That's above average. There's only one player at the table with a very clear higher chip stack than me, and Albert Daher, who's kind of the chip leader at the table. I played with him a lot over the course of this day, and he was definitely taking advantage of his chip lead a little bit, but nothing that seemed completely extreme. And Hellmuth here, you can see, is very short stack, and that kind of sets the stage for this hand. And we'll go ahead and get started here. And it is a Razz hand. The up cards might be a little bit consequential here. You could see, first things first, Phil gets dealt a 6-7-9 first position. There are a few low cards behind him. He definitely needs to go with this hand, and I definitely like coming and raising. There's no way he's going to be able to fold with so few chips left, and he has an opportunity here to potentially get it in with the best hand, and if not, he's going to have plenty of equity in Razz. So he ends up not being the main focus of the strategy portion of this hand today, because with him being so shallow and him being all in, his decisions are relatively straightforward and automatic and not interesting. This hand ends up becoming interesting between myself and Albert Daher. As you can see here, Albert picks up a very reasonable hand here to 2-bet Phil with. You have to know that Phil's going to be very, very desperate to go with a hand here in this situation. So, and certainly as the chip leader, Albert has no fear to play a pot in this situation. So even with the 8 showing, he's certainly comfortable coming in for a 2-bet. He's playing a reasonable range in the spot. He's never going to be in terrible shape. And I think he wants to go ahead and try to push out weaker hands behind him. And now I look down at a very tricky little combo to play, I think, with the 3 showing and the 8-6 in the hole. We are at the stage of the tournament where I want to be a little cautious about playing massive pots, but on the other hand, I am in a pretty advantageous position here with my 8 being hidden and Albert's 8 being face up. I have a distinct playing advantage over him throughout the rest of this hand, and I definitely think my hand has enough equity to play. I'm going to look here at StudFlopDraw as we pull up a stud hand with some of the dead cards, and him having an 8 and me having a 3. I've already reduced our ranges a bit to what I consider to be a reasonable range for him to have in this spot, giving him basically any 3-card 9 or better. And against this, we can see that my 3-8-6 is a small favorite, but it's going to play even better than that by having the playing advantage. So I decided to come in for the cold 3-bet here to go ahead and grow the pot with my superior up card, and I think that's the right decision given that I had plenty of chips. If I were a little bit more cautious about my own stack size here, I think cold call would have been a very reasonable course of action as well. But in this situation, I also have similar goals to Albert, which is that I want to try to isolate Hellmuth, who may be on a very weak and desperate range. I want to push out weaker hands behind me. Nobody really had anything very playable here. And obviously, Phil's going to need to go with this hand here. He's already got 40 of his 65K in, so not very complicated decision for him. And Albert certainly has enough to continue here. We can see against, we'll just look real quick. We can see against my tight range here, not that type of range here. I gave myself any 3-card 9 as well, but we can see that Albert's hand is doing totally fine. He's basically 50-50 against that range. And if we make my range a little tighter, which is probably something we might want to do, here, I'll just do it manually. Let's just get rid of all these 3-card 9s. And, I think this is a more reasonable tight range here, just 3-card 8s and better. And obviously my hands are going to be doing a little bit better. And his hand is going to be doing a little bit worse, but nevertheless, he's 49%. So it's just not like a bad spot for him. It's really the playing discrepancy that he has to deal with here. So we start off with a relatively big pot, and we move to 4th Street, where you're going to see that both Albert and I catch bricks. And I continue the playing advantage by building the pot here with a very small equity advantage here. I catch a king, he catches open 8s, Phil catches a 5, a very good card for him. I'm not particularly concerned about whether I should try to get Albert in or out. I'm basically just focused on generating EV from the side pot in the situation. And again, I'm pushing only a little bit of equity against Albert here, but I do have the playing advantage. If I outcatch him on a future street, this is going to work out better for me by building the pot with the 3 showing against his board, and it just can never be that bad of a situation for me. So I again continue to kind of just play the normal like chip EV Razz strategy and a little bit high variance in this situation, but you can see on 5th Street how this really benefits me. Phil catches another good card. Phil catches the 7. I catch a 10, and Albert catches the queen, and I continue to bet my side, my hand for the side pot. But you can see now that Albert is in a very difficult position. He is behind, maybe not too far behind, but he's now looking bad for both the main pot and he's behind for the side pot, and he has a very, very hard problem. He knows it's very unlikely that I paired the 10, and he has to decide how often. If I catch another good one on 6th Street, is it going to pair me or not? He's going to be playing a pretty tough guessing game. That said, if we take a look at his equity here, and we go ahead and, I guess I can't really tinker with the dead cards too much, but let's go ahead and update the boards here. Oh yeah, we can tinker with the dead cards. So Phil caught a 5 and a 7. Those are dead now. And we have the 8-8 queen versus the 3 king 10. And if we just go ahead and look at this spot on 5th Street, I believe Albert had too much equity to fold here. We can see that I'm doing well here. Obviously, I have 68% range versus range here and should be continuing to bet. However, his actual hand with ace-3 still has 32. Yeah, he has about fair share equity here. So 32% equity here against my range. And against my actual hand, he's doing a little bit better than that, as obviously I have one of the weaker parts of my range with the 8-6, which only has 67% against his range. So I did think this was a tough spot for Albert, and you could see the advantage I gave myself by building the pot early on in the hand. I'm forcing him to fold a sizable amount of equity here, but as we look at it in StudFlopDraw, 32% equity I think is way too much to fold here. I know what he's thinking. He's thinking that Phil is very likely to have a very good hand, and now he's not really doing that well for the main pot, so he's not getting a particularly good price, right? If he is already behind for the side pot, and he's not doing very well for the main pot, the side pot has about... Let's see, Phil was all in for, there's 110 plus 80, 190. So he's only getting 270 to 80 for the side pot, about 3.5 to 1. But nevertheless, even at that price, he has too much to fold here. And I think that this may have been a little bit of a nitty fold on his part here. It's not that he's giving me too much credit. I have a lot of hands like mine, and even if I have a slightly stronger hand, even if I have a 3-card wheel, it's just not that big of a deal. I mean, if we make my range insanely tight here, and just give me, no 3-card 8s, and just give me all premium hands here, like all 3-card 7s and better, I think he's going to be doing too well to fold here. You can see it barely made a difference at all. So I think that he overestimated how strong I am and how weak he is in this situation by a touch. In the table chat after the hand, he ends up thinking while I'm folding here. In the table chat after the hand, when he saw my cards, he felt bad about folding because he saw that I had an 8 in the hole. But honestly, that's not the main issue here. The main issue is more just the equity that he has even against the very, very strong parts of my range. Even when I have a 3-card wheel here, I think he has enough to continue in this situation. It's not going to be an easy hand to play, but I've made the pot large, and I'm trying to get him to fold in this situation, and I'm very happy to take down the side pot here, of course. And I'm also very happy to see that Phil paired his 7, because now that I've accomplished my primary goal, now we get to move on to the fun part of the hand, which is I just try to bust a player and steal the main pot with a very weak hand here. I mean, I have a 4-card 10 against what I could have been basically board locked in the situation. I was lucky that Phil had as weak of a hand as he did, given his board is very scary, 5, 6, 7. And very quickly, we'll just kind of move forward here as the dealers take a long time to deal these all-ins in tournament situations. I catch a gin card on 6th Street for the 5. Phil catches a pair of 5s, which is very unfortunate for him, and now I become the favorite. I have a made 10 with an 8 draw against a 9 draw and 2 pair, so a very unfortunate street for Phil. And on the river, I bricked. Phil had a 50-50 to double up in the situation. He caught a 3 across club, which would either be the 8 of clubs or the 6 of clubs. Albert unfortunately let him know that he did have the 8 of clubs earlier, and so as a result, Phil made 3 pair, a typical sad result in Razz where you start out way ahead on 5th Street and end up catching runner, pair, and I was able to bust Phil, get the field down to 19 players, and win an important pot for my chip stack as we approach the bubble. So I'm going to have a lot more hands from these stream tables here on the channel. Stay tuned. Let me know what questions this one raises for you. I think there's a lot of tournament dynamics at play on these soft bubble situations, and it's going to be really interesting to see these hands in video format. So I'll see you guys soon, and talk to me in the comments and let me know what you think. Thanks.